What you need to know about the Project Iron Triangle. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management expert. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How I do that can be in several different ways, from basic training, helping them to acquire the knowledge, also from one-on-one mentoring to make sure that they are using the skills in a proper way, and also executing and gain the experience to develop those skills and of course get the results that they want there. Before I forget, this content is part of the warm-up of the Project Management Summit. The Project Management Summit is a free event I'm going to make where I'm going to teach you how to progress with your project management skills. There we are going to have content, we are going to have exercise, and you get a certificate in the end of that. So the only thing that you need to know here is clicking the link and subscribe. Again, everything is free. So I'm going to talk about here the iron triangle. If you've never heard that before, this is the iron triangle here, what you can see in the screen. Um, and of course, I'm going to explain to you that, and I'm going to explain why this is important for you to understand. First, what is the iron triangle? You have two versions of that. One is with a waterfall perspective, the other one with an agile perspective. Why it's different? Well, basically you have fundamental distinctions between waterfall and agile. For example, waterfall, it's you start with a clear requirements to define a scope where you're going to make a plan, estimate your cost and resource, then you're going to move to execution. With agile, the way you start is a bit different. You start with some requirements, of course, with a goal in mind there, and then because you have a lot of unknowns, you cannot create a good plan or you cannot create a plan for the project. So you invest less amount of planning and you do an iteration in part of your requirements. What you expect in this iteration that you are going to learn more about the scope of your product, what you are doing, and then you are going to learn and you are going to adapt your scope. You are going to update it. So those are the two main approaches that you have for a project. One is waterfall, and other one is agile. What you need to understand that there's no first of all there's no better approach one or the other. Those are different perspectives that you have for different situations. Let me put this in a simple example. For example, if you are going to build a house, is it easy to define the house that you want to build? In general, in general, I would say yes. You can say, I want a house in this address here. I want a house of, I don't know, 100 square meter. I want a house with two floors, with three bedrooms, two bathrooms. I want the walls in white. I want the walls in blue or whatever. It's much easier to define requirements from what you are trying to do. But if I come up and and tell you, I want you to create a drawing for me, and I want this drawing to be funny, to be nice. Well, I can try to describe this possible drawing here for you, or but it will be difficult for you to figure out what I have in my mind. So what's the easiest way to do it? And of course, in this way, instead of us keeping talking about that forever, it's much easier and cheaper that you draw something to me, draw something, and say, okay, is that close from what you're expecting? Then I can provide you feedback, and then you go keep improving this drawing. That's basically how they do it with the software. That's kind of how the agile approach follows. So why? Because it's difficult to map out the requirements up front. So you're going to do this step by step, and of course, it's difficult to map out the requirements up front. And the other very important difference is, for example, in the case of the house, if you paint the entire house in blue and I say, yeah, but I see this, but I don't like it. I want to change the color. Well, you're going to the time and the cost. Basically, it's the entire service again. Well, if you do a very fast AI sketch for me, like in a drawing, or you do some features that I can see in a software, and say I want to change it, it's much easier to change and fast to change. That's the idea there. So why I'm saying that when you are going to look for project management, first of all, you have this stupid discussion about waterfall agile, which one is better, which ones there's more value. And most of the projects, they are going to teach you project management under waterfall approach or project management under agile approach. And most of, not fair to say most of people, but a lot of people, they have a kind of tunnel vision, then they only see one thing. What's the problem with a tunnel vision if you only see one thing? You're going to miss possible things, that ways of thinking tools from agile, for example, that could be helpful even if you're executing a waterfall approach. That's why when I do my own trainings, I talk about both, because then also makes easier to compare, but also helps you to build this big picture about project management and understand that those are different tools, if you want to call like that, that you're going to use in different situations. Making a very simple analogy here, which tool is better, a driller or a hammer? Depends. There's no better or worse in this situation. There's only, okay, what you're trying to do. So you're going to select the tool based on what you're trying to do, based on the conditions that you have. It's the same idea with waterfall and agile approach. So keep in mind that. And on top of that, then you have the iron triangle where you see from those cases. Why the iron triangle there? Why it's called iron triangle? First of all, because if you look for it, of course, it started with waterfall agile. The agile manifesto is from the year 2000s. Project manager has humankind has been working with project management from the scratch, like the Coliseo in Rome. That was a project to give you an idea. But of course, we start to more to document and try to make this as a knowledge area around the 60s and the 70s. There's when the Project Management Institute start and so on. So if you are looking under the waterfall approach, what you have the what's called iron triangle, because you also have your scope that's fixed, and then you're going to make your cost and time estimation. And it's understood, if you change any of the corners of this triangle, you're going to affect the other. If you change the time, that might directly affect your scope. For example, in the case of the house, if say I need 12 months to build a house to deliver that house completely finished for you. So if someone tells you, oh, you need to do it in 6 months, then say, okay, I might be able to do it, but I'm not going to be able to paint all the walls. So you're shortening time and you're compromising on scope. Or you also the estimations, depending on how much extra scope you add, you're compromised both on cost and time. But your base in your waterfall and any type of project should be the scope on what you are trying to do. Again, if you have a project that's easier to within, not easy is not the right word, because sometimes it's not easy. If you are looking for engineering project, there's a lot of work to be done there to make sure that the requirements can be properly mapped. But if you can identify those in advance, and if it's too expensive to change things later, usually you're going to follow waterfall approach. For example, for a bridge, that I always give this example. If you create a foundation for the bridge, because based on the requirements that you have, and then suddenly the foundation is ready, and then and then someone say, hey, by the way, we would like to double the weight that this bridge can withstand. Just exaggerating, or multiply by 10 the weight that this bridge needs to withstand. Of course, that impacts your foundation. So you are going to look, say, okay, we can adapt, we can change, but that means that we need to redo the entire design. We need to break everything that we have, clean the area, and do the foundation again. So it's very time consuming and very expensive to adapt in a situation like that. That's why what you want to have a very good cost definition, and you want to make sure that this scope definition, sorry, you want to make sure that this scope is stable, to make sure that you can control cost and time, how you're progressing there. What's the different one from Agile? Well, I've already mentioned to you that you have a lot of unclarities in the scope of a project. Not also a lot of unclarities, but in this case, the same analogy that I make, if I'm asking you to create a drawing for me, it's much cheaper to create a sketch and show me. Then we keep talking about different requirements, what type of line that I like, what color that I like. We could have this discussion forever, and we could not even find a good understanding there because communication can be very tricky depending on what you're doing. Let me give you an example that happened with me. Some years ago, I was working ERP implementation. That's enterprise resource management. Those are the big softwares that big companies have. They are kind of the backbone of the company, like SAP, Oracle. Those are the two most famous ones. So the company I was working on, it was a big corporation. They decided to change the ERP all around the world, and they decided to start with the business unit I was working on in Brazil. And they were moving from this software, and then I was assigned as the key user for the project management department. What's a key user for the project management department if you don't know it? I was there as part of the project management team to make sure I would lay down all the requirements that they are needed for the project management team in this ERP to be able to handle the projects in an effective way. And of course, so we had meetings. I kind of started explaining the way we work it. I explained our requirements, how we were controlling costs, what kind of information we would use from the ERP, and so on. And they would match up all those requirements, and they continue working. But what happened is we we had several of those meetings. They were trying to understand the way we work. They were trying to capture those requirements. They were trying to code everything in the system. What happened is after more than 1 year, and at some point everybody was completely tired of those meetings. So after 1 year, I me as a key user, I did not have even the chance to try the system. Say, okay, here's the system. Can you log in? Of course, in a test environment. Can you try to see the report? Can you work with this report? How you download the report? Does it useful? Is it useful for me? Every time they would come up, I want you to do that. And I would say, okay, but based on what you are telling me, I'm not going to be able to do this. So you keep getting those very theoretical discussion that was very time consuming, very frustrating. And in the end, we did not see anything. You say, okay, what do you expect from me? Can I try the system? How do you want? Then they were saying, oh, but we want to go live. Go live. It's make sure that the new implementation is done. Companies stop to use the old ERP and start to use the new one. They want to go live in 3 months. They'll say, okay, for the go live, what do you need? I have never even seen the system. What you're expecting to me? Because as a key user, it was expected also that I would be the expert in the use of the system to also to train all the other project managers in the department and all the other people in the department. Do we need to have manuals? How we are going to organize those sessions? And it was a big mess. And I think after 1.5 years, the project was cancelled in a global scale because of several other reasons. But one of them, the project wasted millions. And because I remember that just allocating the company, there was around 10 consultants working on that project, plus the time from all the company because I was participating in meetings as a key user from my department. But you can imagine it cost millions, and we were not, and I was not even sure if okay, if what they were proposing was something that we could do. What would be the simplest way to confirm? Okay, this report worked for me. Try it. Okay, this is the report. This is the information you can get. Does it work? Does it not work? Very simple. And then of course I could compare with what I was doing because people keep trying to explain it. Sometimes it's difficult to grasp. Okay, you are going to get this report. Okay, but I do not see the report itself. It's someone explain. Can you give me an example? That's why, of course, in this case the project was a big failure. But that's why the idea they start with agile because agile start in a software environment, and to describe a software can be very difficult. So it's much easier to show a piece of that, get feedback because it's easier, faster, and cheaper to do that than trying to keep discussing this in a theoretical environment on and on and on and on. So that's why you have a when you are working with agile, the scope that's something that's going to fluctuate there. Why? Because you don't have all the requirements, so you cannot confirm what's going to be the scope. So usually you have a date that's fixed, that's the release date. You have the resource that you are going to work in the project, and you expect that you are going to iterate to find out a scope that's valuable, that can reach the object, the target, or the goal of the project, and that will help you. So those are the main difference. Why I'm saying this is quite important. I've already mentioned that most of the trainings they only talk about one or another. But what happened in practice? You see agile as a big trend, and you see even consultants they are talking about agile. And believe me, I've been in a lot of trainings, workshops, seminars when with for agile. Um, but invariably, those people they only talk about software because it started with software. It's quite big when software development, but they also have challenges to transfer this for another areas or industry. Does it mean that's not possible? No, but it means that you really need to understand not only the focus point of agile, because for example, agile is it's kind of umbrella term. So you have Scrum, that's the most used agile framework, and if you learn only Scrum, which by the way, of course, I also teach this in my trainings. If you focus only on Scrum, okay, you're going to have there the events of the Scrum, the roles of the Scrum, and the artifacts of Scrum. So you go for the Scrum guide. It's a 13-page document. It's very easy, very lightweight. That's also why it should be. But you miss all the connections with everything else. That's why usually those people, when they talk about agile, they only see that in software, they struggle to make the other connections because sometimes they think that the good leadership foundation should be the same for agile or waterfall. You're not going to have a big change in the good leadership just because it's waterfall or agile. And they tend to not understand the waterfall word, so that's why they tend to reject this a lot. But also goes the other way around. When you talk about, for example, construction, waterfall is most you waterfall is heavily used in the construction industry. Why? Because I just give you the examples. The construction is it's it's easier to identify the requirements up front, and also not that it also gets very expensive to try to adapt something after it's done in the real world. So if those people, that's why it's very used in the construction to make sure you have a good plan in the beginning and you execute the right things there. But then they think also agile means that you don't need to have a plan, you don't have a budget, you don't have a timeline, which in reality is not true. I've never seen a company in my life that would just hire 10 people and say, hey guys, hang it out here, produce something to us, and come back whenever it's ready. That does not exist in the real world. In the real world, you always have a deadline there. You have the resource, but of course, you can imagine that this is limit. And of course, the deadline, it's usually a big pressure there. You can imagine, for example, one example of software development that you can have, it's the iOS from the iPhone. Do you think that Apple will delay the iPhone launch without any problem just because the team that's developing the iOS, in this case, that the team that probably several people there, just because they think they need more time. The world does not work like that. So what's important for you and why I'm making, of course, this content to help you to understand how this works in the real world, to help you to understand waterfall, to help you to understand agile, to help you to understand the iron triangle, because the iron triangle in the end it represents what are the difference between waterfall and agile. You see that here in waterfall scope fixed, this part is estimated, cost and time. In here you are going to work with a resource and time that's fixed, but then you are going to be able to be flexible with the scope because a reality that never changes about project management. Scope, cost, and time, they're always connected. And that's why those things they go into a triangle. You cannot affect one dimension without changing the other one. Let's assume that you are working into a software development team. If you reduce your resource, yeah, that impacts your time or either your scope or both, depending on what you do that. If you are working in construction, If I come, you're building a house, and I just come one day say, by the way, I want a pool in the house. That affects your cost. That affects your time for execution. It's impossible that you're going to change the scope and not affect anything in the cost and time. And of course, sometimes, sometimes, for example, let me give you an example of the house. Say you paint the wall of white, then I say the wall is blue. They say it's a change, but it's not painted yet. The cost of the paint is the same. It's easy to adapt, so there's no big change in cost and time if you're doing that, of course, up front. So that's a different way to do it. But it's very important for you to be successful with project management, and for you, of course, if you want to work in global companies, if you want to add value there, because in the end, the goal of any project is to add value, is to deliver value. So your goal as a project manager there is to deliver value. So to be able to deliver value, you need to have those different perspectives, because that will help you to have this holistic view about how the project should work, will help you to get an understanding about different perspectives. Because what happens a lot, say, because agile it's a big trend, people say let's do agile, but they do not understand anything that goes around agile, and they just take parts of it that they like it, and they try to throw it inside of waterfall. Depending how you're doing, if you're doing like that without understanding, the chances that you're going to fail they're quite high. But if you understand agile, because agile has a lot of focus on developing your team and also leadership, that also help you to develop your leadership and teamwork skills, which also is going to help you with waterfall. You can learn different types of tools that you can implement, even though if you are using waterfall, and that can be very value added for you. uh, for example, one of the tools that I think it's very worthwhile, for example, Scrum, they have what's called a Scrum retrospective. So every sprint, one sprint is between always 1 week or maximum 4 weeks. That's the time boxing of Scrum. They have a meeting only with the team to say what do we need to improve, what did work well, what do we need to improve, and what should we avoid there. What this meeting is about? This meeting is to understand how to improve collaboration, how to improve teamwork, how to have better alignment, and say, hey, I was expecting for you to get this done, but was not done. So it's kind of the moment to the team to get together to gain alignment and to strengthen their connection there to make sure that the team is stronger together. So this is something, and of course, collecting actions that you can take right away to implement it. So you do a sprint retrospective, not just to complain about it, but then you say, okay, decide, okay, what can we change the next time that will make this better? And then you go and do it. And of course, you can imagine that every time you are trying improvements and you're following through it, you're going to improve your performance. And that's something simple that you can use in your waterfall team. And you're going to see things under different perspectives that will help you to build your understanding about the project. It will help you to build understanding about your project, about your company, about the relations among team members, and will give you also some tools. Because, for example, kind of lean is the big umbrella there, so you have agile inside of that, because agile kind of start to develop based on the lean knowledge existing there. If you look into lean, there are several tools that are going to can help you to identify waste. If you are manufacturing something, lean manufacturing should be one of your focus. Understanding lean manufacturing, if you are working manufacturing projects, it's essential there. But also, if you are working in office, you can look for types of waste. If you reduce waste, usually you're reducing costs. You can improve lead times. But all those things are only possible if you keep your mind open. But that's also part of the challenge why I see in different types of training, because they only focus in one box and they say go and do that. Nothing against that. I've done a lot of those trainings. A lot of them they are very good, But if you do not have this view here, you get a piece of that and say, do it. And you don't know how to do it. Because let's assume that you are, say, now I'm going to be a Scrum Master. So they are trying to implement a Scrum in a company that historically worked with waterfall. You do not, if you don't understand anything how a waterfall project works, you are going to be in trouble because you are going to try to push even the language. It's different because if you talk about like Scrum, if you talk about Agile, people talk about squads, stories, and if you go for a waterfall organization, start talk about squads, they're going to start. We don't call squads, we call team. And how the team organized, allocated, expectation. There's a lot of different reasons, but in either way that you have there, gaining this understanding will be only help you. I'm not saying that you should stick with one, learn or either at waterfall agile. I'm saying learn both. Even though if you say, but I'm working in construction, but I'm not going to use it. I'm 100% sure that if you learn what Agile is about, if you learn what Scrum is about, it's going to be helpful for you for your project, or even to come for if someone say, let's use Scrum. Well, if you are in the company and you are the only one that first has this type of knowledge, for a start, you're already ahead of the game, and you can explain, okay, those are the constraints. This is the environment that you also need to make sure that we are successful using Scrum. We need leadership support. We need leadership understanding the way we are going to do it. Because Agile is not about speed. There's also a common mistake that people think Agile is about speed. Agile is much more about adaptability and looking for ways to deliver more value than by speed itself. Why? Because for any type of project, speed does not mean much. You can get something fast, but you can get something wrong. You can get someone say, I just send you the report in 30 seconds. Yeah, the report is wrong. You send the wrong report. That does not help me with anything. So keep that in mind. This is essential for you if you want to succeed with project management. We are in a world that is in constant change with artificial intelligence and all this stuff. So it's very important that you also don't fall in love with waterfall, with agile, but keeping this mind open there will help you to say, okay, what's happening around the world? What's important for me to learn? And then once you learn it, then you can figure out, okay, how can I get some value of that? How can I get value of that in practice, what I'm doing here? And I can tell you again, I have been doing that. I have been working with project management since 2009. I've worked in Brazil as a project manager. I've been working in Europe as a project manager for since 2017. I work with global companies, teams in the Europe, US, Asia, and I talk, of course, with a lot of people in a lot of different companies. I can guarantee to you that understanding, having this big picture view there, most people don't have it. That will help you to better execute your project. That will help you to gain more visibility in your company, and of course, that might help you even to get a promotion, going for your next job, going for a high profile projects if you want. This will only be possible if you do not close your mind for what's going on around the world because you say water agile is crap. I only use waterfall. Also the other way around, waterfall is crap. I only use agile. Be open. One of the most important things for a good project manager is making sure that you are continuous developing yourself, that you're continuous learning there. And this is, of course, one very basic and fundamental example how you can do that in this. How you can do that in a like very hardcore or very hardcore project management knowledge. Because if you say I've seen people I'm working with project management for 10, 20 years. If you ask them, okay, what's Scrum? They don't have any idea about that. But then they see people talking about the train. They say, let's be agile here. Let's have meetings every day. Agile is not about meetings. By the way, neither project management in general is not about meetings. You only do a meeting because you have a goal to achieve with this meeting that should help you to add some type of value. If the meeting has no value, you should not even have a meeting for starters there. But keep that in mind. So every time you are looking for something to learn, and again, that's why I teach that in my own trainings, in my own development programs. I always talk about both because I want to open people's mind. I want to create this view that will help them to perform in the long term. I don't want to just to tell you something about Scrum, talk about events, artifacts, roles, because okay, that's nice. That's something you need to know it. But how those kind of fits, they fit in the big picture. If you go for a company, companies in general, they don't care about project management. They don't care about waterfall. They don't care about agile. What they care about, they want the value in the end. So project management is a tool to get the value there. A waterfall is a tool to get the value there. Agile is a tool to get the value there. Nobody is going to hire you to do Scrum. They want to hire you because they want the results. If you are going to get the results by using Scrum, that's fine. People will be happy. If you get the results by using waterfall, if you get the results by using lean, that's what people are looking for. And in different situations, those different things might bring more value or not. So keep that in mind here. Again, don't forget this content is part of the warm up for the project management summit there. The only thing that you need to do to participate in the event is clicking the link and subscribe. Don't forget also to like and share this video here because then it helps to reach more people and more people can learn about project management. That makes me happy because you are helping me in the process there. And if you want more content, make sure you subscribe in the channel. I have more content every week on my YouTube channel, but every day I have new content on Instagram and there's a Q&A box and you can ask all kinds of questions that you want there. Thank you and I'm see you soon. Bye.